Hi, my name is Simpson. Have you ever wanted to paint but don't feel artistic enough? According to an article about the power of hobbies, hobbies have been shown to stimulate brain activity, foster confidence, and promote happiness. And painting is no different. Today I'm going to teach and demonstrate the basics of watercolor painting. So, watercolor. What is it? It is a type of painting style where you have pigments of paint, and by simply adding water, it enlivens and allows the painter to create beautiful pieces of art. They can be fluid and simple like this. They can be somewhere in the middle, a little more complex, but still not overly complicated like this. They can also be as complex and beautiful as a painting by an artist from the 1900s. Her name is Fidelia Bridges, and this is her painting Through the Dunes. I have been using watercolor paint since 2020. Some of the main points that I will be getting into today with the basics of watercolor is gathering materials, finding inspiration, basic outlining with colors, using basic techniques to progressively paint, letting the paint dry, and going back in with more layers, and then repeating this last step over and over, and then signing your piece. Now, to actually start painting, we are going to begin with the first step, which is gathering materials. Step 1 is gathering materials. Materials you need includes brushes, watercolor paper. Now, watercolor paper is very important because if you do not have that thick grade of paper, if you just try to use regular paper, the water will seep through and ruin the paper. You need water and a cup to hold that water. You need watercolor paints. There are two types of watercolor paint. There is a palette where you just stick the brush in with the water and then go to paint, or there are paint tubes, and this one is more high quality and has more pigment. And if you use paint tubes, you have to have a paint palette as well. The next couple of items are paper towels, and you may also need pens and markers. Step 2 is finding inspiration. There are multiple outlets to find inspiration from, which includes from real life. This may be nature or even animals. From your mind, which this can include like an abstract or a free form of painting, which is very lucid and is very popular with watercolor painting. And my personal favorite is from Pinterest. After you have an idea on what to paint, we will tangibly begin working out our own masterpiece. Step 3 is making the basic outline with light colors. Watercolor paint is simple in that adding more water will make it lighter, and keeping the pigment with little water will give a solid application similar to acrylic or oil paints. As you can see here, I'm doing a basic outline with pencil. Next, I am doing a basic outline in water. Step 4 is using basic techniques to cover the paper. The wet on wet technique is used when you wet the paper and then put watercolor onto it. It creates a fluid type of movement and is great for blending colors and filling out an entire area. As you can see here, this is the wet on dry technique. This technique is most common and occurs when you go in with your watercolors on the dry paper. This can allow you to create lots of small details such as the flowers and the petals that you can see here. Something to note is that it is easy to add lighter layers, but it's harder to take away a dark layer. We should add colors like black and dark brown very lightly and diluted with lots of water, and therefore build off of these lighter layers to create our own paintings. According to the book Modern Watercolor by Kristen Van Leuven, you cannot completely erase paint from the page. There are a couple of techniques you can use to remove paint while it is still wet. This includes using a paper towel to dab the wet painted area, which may remove some of the pigment and can correct errors. I especially use this when I mess up with very dark paints such as black, or seen here as the purple, since they won't blend and hide mistakes as easily. Step 5 is letting it dry and then going in with darker layers and more details if applicable. Letting the watercolor layer dry completely is quite important, especially with keeping layers lighter. This is also where you can add any final touches, such as defining the flowers with a gel pen as demonstrated here. Step 6 is repeating steps 4 and 5 until you are happy with your piece. Step 7 is signing your painting. Signing your painting is a personal choice, which I love to do. It is fun to look back and see your initials on your painting. It personalizes the painting and gives it a special, one-of-a-kind touch. Here is a picture of my final and complete watercolor painting. Now that I've showed you the process of watercolor painting, I hope you'll be inspired to try this hobby out and see what beautiful yet simple paintings you can make yourself. Anyone can create a piece of art. All they need is the willingness to fail and the perseverance to learn. Thank you all.